All right, time travelers, it is time to wrap your mind around a reality where America did unbecome the superpower we know it as. This is the world where the United States not only doesn't come to the rescue, it doesn't even try. So let's rewind the clock and see how this alternate history shook out. Welcome to World Without America. In our timeline, the United States has become the world's sole superpower, shaping global events with its military might, economic influence, and soft power through pop culture. But what if America's trajectory took a detour right from the start? What if the pivotal moments that made the US great never happened? And what if instead Iran became a powerful nuclear player? That's exactly what we're diving into today. Folks, we're going to take a deep dive into a world where Iran beats the US to the nuclear punch and rock the foundations of modern geopolitics. But before we press play on this alternate history, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an epic episode of What If Time Warp. Now let's shift gears and get ready for some alternate history. When most people think of World War II, the United States is a prominent player coming to the rescue. They were the underdog champion of democracy against tyranny. But what if the US didn't jump into the war? What impact would that have on the global balance of power after the war ended? Well, here's a spoiler alert. Things could get real messy, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. Imagine a world where the US decides to sit out World War II, leaving the Allied forces, including Britain and the Soviet Union, to face the Axis powers alone. In this twisted timeline, America's absence could leave the Allied forces depleted and struggling. Britain might fall sooner, and if the USSR takes the lead in defeating Germany and Japan, the world would be looking at a whole different kind of Cold War. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. As we delve deeper into this alternate history, we'll uncover a chain reaction of events that could change the global political landscape forever. But what about America itself? How does the US evolve when it doesn't emerge as a superpower after World War II? Will it fade into obscurity or rise in a different form? Get ready to witness America's unexpected journey in a world where it never took center stage. Now let's zoom in on an unexpected player in our alternate timeline, Iran. In our timeline, Iran plays a small role on the world stage. But what if this nation had a major impact by being the first to develop nuclear weapons? How would this shake up the global balance of power and rewrite history as we know it? Think about it. If Iran beats the US to the nuclear punch, it would have a significant impact on the Cold War and the global geopolitical landscape. Suddenly, the dynamics between nations would shift dramatically. Countries would have to rethink their alliances and strategies in light of a new nuclear reality. But how would this change the Cold War rivalry? Would it intensify or transform in unexpected ways? How would it affect the actions of other superpowers like Russia and China? Imagine a world where Iran's nuclear capabilities not only reshape the Cold War rivalry, but also influence key historical events. Would it alter the outcome of conflicts in the Middle East? Could it change the course of major global events? Well, that's part of the fun of What If Time Warp. We explore the unexpected twists and turns of alternate history and discover how even the smallest changes can have ripple effects throughout time. But wait, there's more to this story. How would the presence of an Iranian nuclear threat affect the United States? Would it push the US to double down on its own nuclear efforts? Or could it lead to a different kind of arms race? How would it impact US foreign policy and its role in the global arena? As we dive deeper into this fascinating alternate timeline, we'll explore the full implications of Iran's nuclear capabilities and how they could have reshaped the Cold War rivalry and the world as we know it. It's a wild ride through history that you won't want to miss. So buckle up and prepare to witness the unexpected. Meanwhile, back in our timeline, the Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union dominated the latter half of the 20th century. The two superpowers faced off in a global chess match, vying for dominance and influence. Each side built up its military arsenal, formed alliances, and engaged in a race to explore space. The rivalry sparked fear and tension as the threat of mutually assured destruction loomed large. But it also spurred innovation and competition in science and technology. From the space race to the development of new weapons systems, the Cold War rivalry pushed both sides to constantly strive for advancement. Ultimately, the rivalry shaped the course of history and left a lasting impact on the world we live in today. But what if we turned back the clock and imagined a world where the Cold War rivalry never existed? How would this absence shape the course of history and the world as we know it? Now, picture this. The year is 1945. World War II has just come to an end, and the world is still reeling from the devastation of the war. The United States and the Soviet Union, who were once allies, now find themselves on opposite sides of a growing divide. But what if this divide never materialized? What if the US and the USSR chose cooperation over conflict? In this alternate timeline, the Americans and Soviets could work together to rebuild a war-torn Europe. They might establish a joint administration for Germany, fostering collaboration rather than division. Imagine a scenario where Stalin and Truman, instead of issuing conflicting directives about post-war Europe, meet in a pivotal summit that sets the tone for a different kind of Cold War, one focused on shared goals and cooperation. But the implications of this partnership extend far beyond Europe. A cooperative US-Soviet relationship could alter the balance of power across the globe. It might discourage the proliferation of nuclear weapons, as both sides recognized the futility of competing in an arms race. They started together. Additionally, such an alliance could redefine the nature of international organizations. The UN might take on a new role as a collaborative platform rather than a forum for proxy conflicts. And then there's Iran. In our timeline, Iran's decision to pursue nuclear weapons led to tensions and concerns about a potential nuclear arms race in the region. But in this alternate timeline, a US-Soviet partnership might deter Iran from pursuing nuclear weapons. Seeing the futility of challenging a powerful alliance, it could potentially lead to a diplomatic solution regarding Iran's nuclear program, reducing global tensions. However, this peaceful Cold War wouldn't be without its challenges. Differences between the ideologies of the United States and the Soviet Union could still cause friction. Issues like human rights and the role of communism might spark debates and disagreements. Additionally, the motivations behind the initial cooperation could be questioned. Is it genuine, or are there hidden agendas? But what if the US and the USSR managed to overcome these challenges? A collaborative Cold War might paint a very different picture of the late 20th century. Instead of facing off in an arms race, the two superpowers could lead a world focused on diplomacy, international cooperation, and peaceful coexistence. So what do you think? Could the Cold War have played out in a more cooperative manner? How would a different approach have affected the world we live in today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's travel back to the 1970s. In our timeline, the rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union reached new heights. The Cold War was intensifying, and the competition between the two superpowers was heating up. But what if the tables were turned? What if the Soviet Union got the upper hand in the race to cement its dominance on the world stage? Now, imagine a world where the Soviets take the lead and establish control over Eastern Europe. In this alternate timeline, the Berlin crisis is resolved in favor of the Soviets. The construction of the Berlin Wall stands as a symbol of Soviet dominance rather than a barrier against it. But the impact of Soviet control extends beyond Europe. In this world, Soviet influence could spread throughout the Middle East. The USSR's alliance with Iran grows stronger, turning the region into a Soviet sphere of influence. Oil flows from the Middle East to the USSR, fueling its economy and military machine. As the Cold War intensifies, the Soviet Union expands its reach beyond Europe and the Middle East. With the backing of its allies, the USSR gains control of Central Asia and the Far East. Siberia becomes a hub of strategic importance, rich in natural resources and military installations. Facing this expanding Soviet empire, the United States finds itself on the defensive. Its alliances and partnerships are put to the test. The US struggles to contain the spread of communism and protect its interests abroad. In this altered timeline, the balance of power shifts dramatically. The Soviet Union emerges as the dominant superpower, shaping global events according to its interests. The Cold War takes on a different dynamic as the US fights to maintain its relevance on the world stage. So what would a world look like where the Soviet Union triumphs in the Cold War rivalry? How would history unfold with the USSR as the dominant superpower? Well, it is a fascinating exploration of what could have been, and it challenges us to reconsider the course of the 20th century. In conclusion, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment in alternate history where the absence of America's rise has set off a chain reaction of events that have reshaped the world we know. We've seen how the US's impact on global affairs could have led to a very different outcome for World War II and the emergence of new superpowers like Iran. We've also explored how a US-Soviet partnership could have led to a more cooperative Cold War, and how a victorious Soviet Union could have reshaped the balance of power globally. Each scenario offers a unique perspective on how history could have unfolded, and each leaves us with a sense of wonder about the choices that shaped our world. Now, time travelers, it's your turn. Which scenario did you find the most intriguing? How do you think America's absence impacted global events? And how would you change history? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the conversation. And remember, the journey through time is just beginning.